Hey guys, welcome back. Today I want to talk about 5 of the benefits of reading, 5 reasons that I feel that everyone should read. At the end of this video, I do want to recommend 2 books that I have read that have had a huge impact on my life. So if you want to hear about that, then stick around. These are books that I recommend, but again, you can check that out at the end of this video. So without prolonging the time, let's get to it. Reason number 1 is that you will learn more about yourself. With learning more about the world, with learning more about how things operate, perhaps different cultures, or more so even just reading the words of other people, learning the perspectives of other people, their viewpoints, you learn a lot more about yourself when you're doing this. Now, this may not seem obvious at first. You may seem that you're learning more about different people, but the thing is that you're learning different views. You're learning about how other people think, some of the things that they have learned. You in the process of learning about, how the world works and views of other people, this allows you to learn more about yourself. Why is that so? So with right now, just imagine what you know about the world, your surrounding environment. Imagine that as your box, right? And when it comes to knowing yourself, when it comes to you looking in the mirror, what you're seeing is a reflection of not only just your physical self, but you're seeing a reflection of your viewpoints. You're seeing a reflection of those walls, that box, and everything that you've learned in that box. Now, when you start to expand, you start to learn how other people think. You're expanding that box. When you learn more about how the world operates, perhaps different rules, different norms, and all that sort of thing, then you'll realize just how different the world is. And in the process of realizing how different the world is, then that box, it grows. And when you look, those reflective walls in that box, when you're looking, you're seeing a lot further off in the distance, and the reflection of yourself that you're seeing is a more knowledgeable person, a more wiser person, a more world aware person. And this is why I believe that you can't learn about yourself if you just stay to yourself. And that may seem different than what many people believe, but you have to learn about the world. You have to expand your box of wisdom and knowledge, and understand how other people think, how other people behave, how other people interact. All those things are very important, because in that process you perhaps develop a little bit more compassion for people and a little bit more empathy, and in that process you're discovering more about yourself, how you truly feel. So learning about yourself is connected to learning more about the world. So that's one of the benefits I have learned again from reading, is that learning more about the world, you learn more about yourself. Reason number 2 is that you will learn new skills, wisdom, and knowledge. Now, many people will probably believe that when you go to college, perhaps what you've gained from high school, that you're done learning, that you have what it takes to continue to navigate in the world. And now, of course, you're going to learn things on your job. You're going to learn things from the people around you, but it is quite important that you continue to actively seek knowledge, that you continue to actively learn things. So, and one of the things that's one of the things that you can get from reading. So, I think many people develop a hate towards reading mainly because of those school years. You perhaps think that you hate learning, or that you don't have time for it. You just develop a distaste towards learning mainly because perhaps in the years before you've been forced to read certain books or certain texts that you perhaps didn't have an interest in. And because of that, you think that you just hate learning or hate reading in general. And that's probably not the case. One of the things that you will find is, if you haven't really read, is that once you start, you pick up a great book. Once you start, you will get so absorbed and you will want to come back to that book. This is one of the things I have found with a recent book that I have picked up. What's it called? Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, one of the emperors of Rome during, I think, 161 to 180 AD. I started reading this book a couple days ago, and I have found that when I am at work, I am very anxious to get back home to pick that book back up and continue reading. Now, I do want to say that, you're reading sort of in a way, I feel that it should be directed. And that's one of the things that when it comes to, knowing what you want out of life, and knowing, the things that, the goals that you want to achieve in life, your purpose in life, that, reflecting on those things. And that's why I say it's important to know yourself, is that it will allow you to know perhaps what avenue you should go when it comes to reading. If you're in IT and you want to learn more about, perhaps a certain area, a certain language, you'll probably find a book or find an online resource to learn more about it. You're not going to go in an area that's completely unrelated. That's because you know what you're trying to learn. You know what you want to learn. So, reading in a way, I feel that it should be directed. But, sometimes you may pick up a certain book, and actually 2 of the books that I'm going to talk about a little bit later is Buddhism Without Beliefs and How to Be a Stoic. when I picked up Buddhism Without Beliefs, that led me to How to Be a Stoic, because it mentioned Stoicism and I didn't know much about it. So then I wanted to learn about Stoicism. I read this book, and that led me to 3 other books that I have just recently picked up. So that is one of the things, it's like diving into a world, and once you discover one thing, it expands you in such a way, and you want to learn a little bit more. So that's one of the things. You will develop new skills. You develop new wisdom, things that you can share with other people, and just skills that you can apply to your life when it comes to navigating your life, when it comes to handling tough situations or mindsets and all that sort of stuff. It's just, you will learn a lot in that process. And again, it's quite important that you continue to learn. It's important that you continue to develop your skills in life, because you never know when something is going to come along and it's going to threaten your job position, and you never know when you may grow tired of a certain area and you want to learn something else. And you don't always have to go to school to learn. Sometimes you can learn quite a bit just reading. So I think that's one of the things that a lot of people may not realize. One of the first reactions that you will often get is, I don't have time to read. And I have views on that I probably won't share right now. But anyways, that is one of the things that you can gain from from reading. You can learn new perspective, new skills, new wisdom, and it can be quite beneficial in many ways. Reason number 3 is that it will improve your conversation skills. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because it's quite obvious when it comes to talking to people, right? Let's say they bring up a subject that you know absolutely nothing about. Now, what's going to happen here? In my case, I found myself getting quite general with the comments when it comes to, someone brings up a topic that I know absolutely nothing about. My responses are quite general, and it makes it difficult to engage in the conversation. But one of the things that you can do in this situation is you can more so craft the conversation in such a way that allows the other person to teach you. So, you can perhaps come with an and ask a question about what they're talking about, or ask a question about something they may have said. But one of the benefits, as I said, one of the benefits that you can gain from reading is that you develop, as I said before, you develop new perspectives, and you have more knowledge. And in those conversations, you can take the conversation in a way that you want to take it, or you can have a conversation about something that you have perhaps learned through reading. And again, you can be more engaging in different topics, and you can make your conversations more interesting. And that's one of the things that's quite beneficial, even when it comes to, developing new business relationships, or perhaps new job relationship, with your coworkers, perhaps dating and all this sort of stuff. Conversation is quite important. I think that many people neglect this whole element of, the knowledge that you have behind that conversation. Again, if you know quite a bit, then you can find those people that are in the areas that you want to converse with, and then you can perhaps recall on some of the things that you have read and implement that in your conversations. I have a coworker who has developed a bit of a reputation for knowing a little bit about everything, and one of the things I have come to love about this guy is that I can go to him if I have a question or something that I'm not sure about. I can just bring it up around him, and he will have some sort of input on that question. And that has allowed me to begin to like him. That has allowed me to begin to want to be around him, perhaps at lunch or something, because that means that I have opportunities to learn more things, to get out of the viewpoint of someone else. And that wouldn't have been the case if he had not perhaps read or learned throughout whatever means possible. Even if it's not a physical book, it can be an online resource, article, whatever. And that's one of the things that perhaps you have to. You're not just born with amazing wisdom and knowledge on different areas. You learn this either through someone teaching it to you, or you learn it through reading, or you learn it through practice. And that's the thing. You have to be active when it comes to learning. You're not just going to, these things are not just going to come to you. You have to go out and get them. So that's one of the things that I have found with reading is help improves conversations. As I've been reading, I have things that I can bring up in conversations now that perhaps someone else may not have heard of, or perhaps things that they have or topics that they have brought up, and then I can have a more engaging conversation. So reading gives you basically more things to talk about, and you're a little bit more equipped when it comes to new conversation, meeting new people, and that sort of thing. All right, reason number 4 is reading is a good use of time. I talked about this before, that when you develop good habits, then that allows you to replace those bad habits, those habits that aren't necessarily beneficial to you. And again, a lot of this comes back down to your goals. What are you trying to achieve? What purpose do you have? Or what are you trying to accomplish? So you have to align your time in such a way that allows you to progress towards whatever those goals are. So the thing with reading is, and again, I should probably make this disclaimer first. If you're trying to become a great sports player, perhaps you shouldn't be reading about sports. Perhaps you should actually be out there doing whatever it takes, going through the practice, going through the motions, the actions and everything. But you may study the art. But again, a lot of this comes back down to what are you trying to accomplish? So the thing with reading is it allows you to replace habits that aren't necessarily beneficial to you. Those financially draining habits, those time wasting habits. One of the things that I had found several years ago is that I spent a lot of time video gaming, and this changed pretty much throughout college. Before college, I played a lot of video games throughout high school, and that was one of the things I wanted to come back home so that way I can jump in games. And again, that changed throughout college because I realized that I couldn't afford the time as much to devote towards it. And then from that point on, I haven't really played as much before. But looking back, if I had that same lifestyle now, I realized that it doesn't necessarily align with the things that I'm trying to accomplish. To me, I read for several reasons. I read to develop new perspectives. I read to gain more knowledge in areas that I need to improve on, perhaps speaking or whatever. I read to learn different methods to navigate life, to handle the difficult circumstances of life, challenges. And that is the thing that's, quite a few of the things that I have found is quite a benefit from reading. It gives me new perspectives and makes me realize that, hey, other people have gone through this same thing, perhaps in different times, but they've gone through similar challenges, and perhaps this is how they navigated. These are things that they did that allowed them to navigate through those difficult times, and I apply those to my life, and it's a way for me to gain knowledge and wisdom from them and apply that to my life. So and not only that, but I read to develop new perspectives so that I can assist other people. A lot of times I have friends who come to me for advice, and I'm able to reflect on some of the things I have learned throughout books that I have been applying to my life and realize the benefits of them, and I'm able to express them to those people and say that, hey, perhaps doing this can benefit you. This is the reason why you're struggling with this. This is the reason why you're struggling with depression or whatever. So you have to figure out, you have to acknowledge what your goals are, and then, you can direct your reading in such a way that allows you to learn more, more strategies, more skills, or whatever it takes to apply towards accomplishing those goals. And again, it's just a good use of your time. It's a good use of your time. Now, one of the things that I have found a lot of people will say is that they don't have time to read. Now, I know I don't want to necessarily say this in such a way that, offends anyone or whatever, but one of the things, at least I'll say how I navigated this. So, during the time period in which I was a bit more busy, I tried to finish a book a month, right? And sometimes I'm reading multiple books at once, and that allows, that prevents me from doing that in, directly on a month. Maybe by the third month, I'll be able to finish 3 books. But one of the things that I have found when things were a bit more difficult and I wasn't able to accomplish that, or, I had a lot more things going on, is that, I had to find different times to read, so, perhaps when I came home and I used the bathroom or something, I used that time to read a couple pages. I spent a little bit more time in the bathroom than I probably normally would. I said, hey, let's spend 15-20 minutes in here, and that's just time that I could have dedicated towards reading before bed. That used to be one of the common times that I had that I normally read, and I still do sometimes now, but I found more time in which I can do it before then. But before bed, when I hopped in bed, I give myself the go. I want to read for at least 20 minutes, or maybe I want to read at least 10, 15, 20 pages. Maybe I can get that done tonight, and then I'll feel comfortable. I'll feel accomplished, and I achieved that objective for the night. So that allows me to go to bed feeling pretty well. So that's the thing. You have to realize those small moments, that you can take advantage of and do 2 things at once. And also, if there's time that you're dedicating towards things that aren't necessarily beneficial, like for example, as I had been doing with video games before, then I diverted that towards reading. Again, this is not to tell you that you should be reading, or it's not to tell you that you should stop doing what you're doing to read. It's more so to say that, hey, if you have a goal or things that you want to accomplish, then you have to align your schedule. You have to align your time in such a way that can allow you to progress towards that. So, you have to be able to cut out the things that aren't necessarily beneficial. And hey, if reading isn't beneficial, then you have to cut that out. But, from the perspective of you're being able to learn new things to apply to achieving those goals, then you have to cut it away from things that aren't beneficial and put it towards those things that are beneficial. Again, reading is a good use of time. And reason number 5 is you open your mind to new perspectives, and that allows you to perhaps come up with new ideas and new views in your own life. And you know, I probably talked a little bit about this before in in one of the previous reasons, but one of the things I have found is that a lot of times, or at least I feel that some of the things I may have read in the past have perhaps subconsciously been brewing in my mind, and allowed me to come up with different views or different ways of navigating or handling situations that I perhaps wouldn't have been able to do before. You know, sometimes when you're reading, it may be difficult to apply or actively think of, this is how I'm going to apply what I'm reading right now. Sometimes it may just come naturally. So, you know, in your mind, you're putting together, you know, connections that you're perhaps not aware of. And those connections will allow you to have new views or come up with new ideas. Again, when it comes to your goals, perhaps you're trying to think creatively, think, you know, how can you go about something a different way? And, you know, learning those things, you know, throughout time, it's just a process. You know, it's just a process that continues on, and it will have an impact. Like I said, you may not notice it at that direct moment, but it does have an impact. So again, it allows you to come up with new perspectives in navigating your life. And that is one of the things that, as I said before, has been one of the reasons why I read. One of the reasons that I feel that reading for me is benefits and goes along with what I'm trying to accomplish. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I did want to talk briefly about 2 books that impacted my life and how they impacted my life. And these are books that I am recommending to other people, to you to read. So first off is Buddhism Without Beliefs. Now, this is a book that I had referenced in a previous video. And the secondary part of the title is A Contemporary Guide to Awakening. One of the things looking back that I didn't realize at the early point in this time, early point in this year, is that I wasn't necessarily actively on the process of discovering myself. I wasn't actively on the process of, finding out more about myself. And perhaps you can say that that is awareness, being aware of yourself. That is very important. Being, having some self-consciousness, that's quite important. So I wasn't actively on that journey. I feel that perhaps I've been on the journey passively or subconsciously throughout the past several years, but I didn't necessarily directly realize the benefit of being active on that journey. So I found myself, I have a public Facebook page, A Tidbit of Life. I found myself online posting positive quotes, posting positive things, and perhaps I've done that in videos. But again, I reached a point in which I felt that something wasn't right or something was missing. And I think that what that was I wasn't necessarily actively on that process of discovering myself. Again, I may have knew portions of myself, but I wasn't actively trying to connect those pieces. I wasn't actively pursuing that journey of learning more about myself. And that once I discovered that, and this book has actually allowed me to begin that process. Once I finished reading this book, I looked back and I realized that I wasn't on that process, and then I was able to start that journey. And since doing so, my life hasn't been the same. And I may have said this before, that we sometimes go through transitions in life, and sometimes those transitions are initiated by traumatic events. Other times it may be initiated by something we've learned. And again, I have found that this book allowed me to reach that transition in which I became aware that I wasn't on that journey. And once I became aware of that, then I was able to begin that journey. This book, Buddhism Without Belief, like I said, it's taught me things that I've been able to apply to my life, throughout meditation, throughout ways of handling stress, ways of dealing with things that are just out of my control. And one of the things that it mentioned in this book was actually Stoicism, and I didn't know what Stoicism was. So that led me to How to Be a Stoic. And you probably heard of this book, or you may not have, but one of the things, I have learned quite a few things out of this book. I've just finished reading it perhaps about 2 weeks ago. And one of the major things I have gotten from this book is something that perhaps we're already aware of, but it words it in such a way, or it calls it the dichotomy of control. Now, just briefly, one of the notions about that is that many things are not in our control. Now, the thing is that we can oftentimes stress ourselves out about, things that have happened in the past, things that other people are doing, something that someone else has done that has negatively impacted your life, a breakup or something that they said to you. Again, something that may have happened in the past. And one of the things that you have to realize is that those things aren't in your control. You know, we can stress ourselves out. We can lead ourselves through depression and sadness by trying to control things that aren't in our control. And what that does is that takes our energy away, energy that we can apply to things that are in our control. So, you know, oftentimes things may happen that other people cause things that are negative, or, you know, things that happened negatively in my past. And, you know, they may weigh on me a little bit, and I may worry about them or think too much on them. But then I catch myself and realize that, hey, this is out of my control. It has happened. And I think that people may sometimes think that I'm emotionless, or, you know, I just discard things, you know, lightly. That's not the case. It's just more so that when I realize that something is out of my control, then I try to divert my focus away from it. And, you know, because I know that it's not something that I can change, and there's no need in allowing that to destroy my energy. You know, I can invest that energy towards things that are in my control, so that I can achieve my goals and, you know, perhaps accomplish my purpose in my life, you know, shaping my destiny, if you will. So, and these books sort of go hand in hand with, like I said, with allowing with being able to move my attention away from things that aren't in my control. That's something that I sort of learned from Buddhism Without Belief as well. And that's something that I have been practicing throughout meditation. When it comes to meditation, you're being bombarded with external thoughts, things that, you know, these thoughts coming in your mind aren't necessarily in control, but what you can control is you can control the releasing of those thoughts. You can control the refocusing of your attention towards, you know, your meditation, the objective of your meditation, you know, whether that's through breathing or your heart rate or the sound of wind outside or whatever it is. You can control your remove of your attention away from those things that aren't in your control, that are bombarding you, and bring it back to where you want it to be. So these are, like I said, these books have been majorly impactful in my life, and I would truly recommend them. I do want to mention one more thing before this video gets out of hand, the link, but I do want to mention one thing. Now, I said, you know, with the title of this book, Buddhism Without Beliefs, I mentioned that to a friend. I recommended this book to a friend of mine, and one of the first things that he said was, "Oh, you're trying to become a Buddhist or something like that." And I'm like, no. The thing about this book and a lot of the books that I read is that there's something I can benefit from them and apply to my life. New perspectives that I can apply to my life, new practices I can apply to my life that allow me to handle difficult situations and allow me to find more peace in my life. And that is why I'm recommending you this book, because you perhaps can find some of the same benefits as well with How to Be a Stoic. No, I'm not recommending this book to say that you should try to become a Stoic. I'm recommending this book because there are things within it that can benefit you, that you can apply to your life. And that's one of the things that I checked myself when I first got this book. Like I said, even after I read Buddhism Without Belief and I started learning about Buddhism, I checked myself and said that I am not trying to become a Buddhist. I'm not trying to become a Stoic. I am more so approaching this with finding out how, you know, why did these things come to existence? How did Buddhism come to existence? Why did it come to existence? How did Stoicism come to existence? They came because people realized methods that allowed them to navigate life. And, you know, so then I began to say that I want to learn about this so that way I can take advantage of the things that they have learned, you know, take advantage of the new perspectives, take advantage of things that I can apply to my life that can allow me to navigate life as a stronger version of myself, as a better version of myself. So again, that is the reason why I recommend these books. I try not to recommend anything with the mindset of you should become this. And one of the things that can happen because of that is you can become an extremist of one view. And when you become extremist of one view, then you close that box again and you don't allow yourself to expand. We see this with different things when it comes to politics, when it comes to religion or anti-religion. You know, perhaps we hear this term religious extremists or Islamic extremists, and just not to pick on any religion or anything. It's just one of the common terms that you may have heard. You hear this a lot. But I believe that you can also have perhaps, now, like I said, I grew up in a Christian background. This is not to identify with a certain religion or anything. I grew up in a Christian background. This does, you can have Christian extremists, and, perhaps that's, through people forcing their religion on you or forcing you to adapt or read certain things lightly because they feel that this is going to change your life. No. I am not, and that's one of the things. You should not approach things with that mindset, because what it does is it closes you off to different areas. I wouldn't tell anyone to learn about one religion. I would tell someone to learn about all of them, or learn about multiple of them, because then again, you're not approaching this to adapt a certain belief or ideology. You're approaching this to gain the benefits from it. You know, the pieces that you can apply to your life that can allow you to become a better version of yourself, a stronger version of yourself, a wiser version of yourself. So that is how, or that's one of the things I just want to mention, you know, despite me recommending these books. Again, don't approach them, or don't think that I'm saying that you have to become a certain thing. It's more so to say that there's things that perhaps you can benefit from these books, or, you know, different views or philosophies or whatever you want to call them. But anyways, I hope that I've said something that can benefit you. I think this video has gone on perhaps long enough, a little bit longer than I want it to be. I did want to mention that I wanted to talk a little bit more about some of the, you know, philosophies that I have been studying lately, and you know, the benefits of those, but I will put that in another video. But anyways, I hope I've said something that can benefit you guys. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and until next time, I will talk to you later.